Shabbat Shalom, L'chaim, L'chaim. This week's Torah portion is Re'eh. It opens up speaking. It says, "See, I've placed before you today a blessing and a curse." And it goes on to list a number of curses and blessings that Moshe and Hashem are basically saying to the Jews, I've given you this good thing. If you follow my ways, you'll be blessed. And if you don't, you'll be cursed. The Torah portion goes on to highlight, really to recount what we already have learned from previous parshiot about the temple, that Hashem is establishing a temple, a place for us to go and bring offerings, and then goes through offerings again, where we can bring offerings. And the very end of the Torah portion talks about the holidays, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, all the holidays that we're going to have. And it says in this week's Torah portion, "V'samachta v'chagecha," that you should be happy and rejoice on these holidays. And so there are two teachings that I learned that really I loved. They blew my mind from the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. The one is about this, the holidays, where it says "V'samachta v'chagecha," and the Baal Shem Tov says that the sages say, "Ein simcha ela basar v'yayin." There's no joy except for with meat and wine. And so Baal Shem Tov explains this differently. He says, in the heavens, when they look down at the Jews during the holidays, Ein simcha ela basar v'yayin. There's no joy like the joy of a person of flesh and blood. Basar, flesh, v'yayin. Yain, the red, the blood. That the most joy that Hashem gets and the most joy that the angels get in their whole, existence is seeing Jews down here enjoying the holidays. So that was a nice little teaching. But another one that I really liked is that the Torah portion goes through all the different animals that are kosher and not kosher, what we can eat, what we can't eat. And when it gets to birds, it says that there's a bird called a re'eh, which is interesting because the Torah portion is called re'eh. And so the sages ask in the commentaries, why do we have to go through all the animals again? We already heard this before in a previous parsha. And it says it's because of this animal, a re'eh, and another one, which I forget its name. But, so they asked, okay, well, what is a re'eh? And in the translation of it, they call it like a white vulture or something like that. But they say, why is it called a re'eh? Because it sees very well. They say that she stands in Babylon and can see to Eretz Yisrael. And so what does the Baal Shem Tov say about this? He says, sometimes you get a person who's standing in Babel. Babel is what King Solomon says, Hevel Havalim. That comes from the same root, Havel, Babel. That a person could be standing in the vanities of the world, in the mundane life, so obsessed, so engrossed in their, how to earn a parnasa, all the vanities of life. And they're not really so connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they're not so connected to Yiddishkeit and the Torah. They're standing in Havel, Bavel, Hevel Havalim. And they look at a tzaddik, they look at an observant Jew, and they see a carcass. Sorry, that was the end of the pasuk. The pasuk says, she stands in Bavel, and she sees all the way to Eretz Yisrael, and sees a carcass, a dead animal. And so this is what it says, when a person is standing in the vanities of the world, and they're looking at a tzaddik, a person following their ways, sometimes they're disgusted by it, and they say, oh my gosh, it's gross, they're terrible, they think they're better than me. But really, it's us. And I think what this teaches me is, about this week's Torah portion, is that the Torah finds it so important to go over again how much we must look at other people with a good eye. How important it is for us to not be so engrossed in the vanities of the world, to connect back to Hashem, to strive to be like that tzaddik, and to look at every person with a good eye. So Shabbat Shalom, we should merit to Samachta v'chagecha, to enjoy our holidays, and to look at others with a good eye, to strive to be like the tzaddik, and not to be like this re'eh, this bird that only sees bad things in the world. It looks at a tzaddik and sees bad. Shabbat Shalom.